welcome to Unofficial Quafflecast. Today we're going to do another special video about things that didn't make the transfer from page to screen. One of which, you may have noticed that we don't have a sock on each, and we have lots of hats on. So if you haven't guessed by now, we're going to do a video about house elves. One in particular, called a Winky.
So Winky is completely missing from every book that she's in. She's not kind of brought in and brought out again. She's just not in the films.
Not a trace.
Which is very sad, because she's a big part of the fourth film, The Goblet of Fire, fourth book. And then she's kind of in the fifth one a little bit, but not massively. But she's quite a huge plot point in the fourth book, which is never actually particularly explained very well in the film. It's kind of just glazed over.
Because her story ties in with Barty Crouch, and Barty Crouch kind of is mentioned in that film, is kind of an important part, but also is done quite quickly. Yeah. So we, bearing that in mind, will tell you all about Winky.
Okay, so Harry, Ron and Hermione first meet Winky at the Quidditch World Cup, where she is sat at the top in the box that they get to go in. She's sat next to an empty seat, saving a seat for Barty Crouch, and she doesn't like heights, so she's crying. And then later on they see her at the Quidditch World Cup with Harry's wand, which is the wand that casts the dark mark into the sky. So she's then dismissed from her post by Barty Crouch. He says he's going to give her clothes and fires her, and she is completely distraught. So then we see her later on when Ron and Hermione and Harry go into the kitchen, and they see Dobby and they see Winky, who is a complete mess. She's heartbroken that she no longer works for Barty Crouch. She's distraught. She's drunk on butterbeer, which isn't strong for humans, but it's very, very strong for a house elf. So she's a complete alcoholic. It's really not good. And then, so that's kind of, you'd never sort of settle Winky's story. She's always just sad and lost and never gets over the fact that she was fired. But we see her later on when Barty Crouch Jr. is discovered, and Dumbledore goes and gets her, and she comes up to the office and explains what part she's had to play. So Barty Crouch Jr. was escaped from Azkaban with the help of his father, and then Winky is in charge of looking after him, so he spends all his time in the house with Winky under the Imperious Curse. And Winky begs Barty Crouch to let her take Barty Crouch Jr. to the Quidditch World Cup and let him watch it. So she's not actually saving a seat for Barty Crouch. She sat next to Barty Crouch Jr. under the invisibility cloak, and then obviously he escapes, goes and casts the dark mark into the sky, which is when Winky is then, that whole story ties in together, and he escapes and goes and finds Voldemort, and it's all really bad. So that's why Winky's fired, because she didn't do her job of keeping Barty Crouch Jr. under security.
So that's Winky. And it's a really sad story in Harry Potter.
But she's never really happy. We never see her happy and settled.
No, but it's part of Hermione's story with S.P.E.W and all of that kind of stuff, and affects her strongly. The big tragic kind of part of house elves is their loyalty. And they, even though sometimes they serve really horrid people, they still are very loyal, and she feels, until she finds out about what Barty Crouch does, and finds out that he's killed his father, right?
Yeah.
She still feels very loyal and wishes that she could be helping them. And that just shows how strong and wonderful they are, and what a tragedy it is that they're enslaved. Even though she's a free house elf, she's still not really.
She's not very happy. She's not Dobby.
No.
So, speaking of Dobby, the wonderful Dobby, and why we are dressed so quite madly today, the socks, I would hope, are self-explanatory, because Dobby is set free by Harry giving Dobby his sock and hiding it in the diary in the second one. But Dobby's in the second film, and he's also in the seventh film, like he is in the books. However, Dobby is also in the fourth book and the fifth book, and he is not in the films at all.
They decided, for some unknown reason,
I'm not happy,
to cut Dobby out of The Goblet of Fire and Order of the Phoenix, and give his little plot points to Neville Longbottom, which is lovely for Neville. We love Neville. But so the first one is in the Goblet of Fire. What task is it? The second task.
Second task.
The second task. The second task in the Triwizard Tournament is the underwater task, where they have to go and rescue a loved one or someone that they care about from down in the lagoon, in the lake. Harry's getting all stressed because he can't work out how to swim underwater. And
When was the last time you held your breath underwater for an hour, Hermione?
He's going to the library, he's trying to work everything out. And along comes, in the novels, Dobby.
He wakes Harry up in the morning of the task and gets Harry down, and he says, Dobby cannot let Harry Potter lose his Wheezy! And Harry goes, my what? Wheezy, sir! Wheezy! That is giving Dobby his jumper, sir! So he then gives Harry the gillyweed that allows him to go underwater, which in the film, obviously Neville does. It's the same thing about finding him in the library. And in both, it is then explained that it's Barty Crouch that plans it all. But yeah, Dobby does that in the book.
It is because they had so much CGI in the Goblet of Fire that they were like, we can't afford Dobby as well.
And also, a lot of Neville bits have been cut down, so I guess
true.
And I get that it has to be kind of an underdog and an unexpected helper. But Neville also steals another one of Dobby's storylines in the fifth one.
In the fifth one, big part of the story is Dumbledore's army, and they're looking for somewhere to practice. Harry's looking for somewhere to practice casting spells and real defense against the dark arts. So Harry is talking to Dobby and mentions that they need a place to use, and Dobby goes, "Bing, I have an idea." And he tells Harry about the Room of Requirement. So that's where they go and practice defense. But in the film, guess who finds the Room of Requirement? Neville Longbottom.
Dobby knows about the Room of Requirement because it's where he takes Winky, who is briefly mentioned in the fifth book as having a butterbeer addiction problem. And Dobby uses the Room of Requirement to take her there, and it's like a chill room. I think it's got pillows and somewhere she can sleep off her drunken state and cure her hangover. So that's how Dobby knows about the Room of Requirement, and then takes Harry there. Let's explain the hats. I think we need to explain the hats.
Yeah,
so Hermione starts with S.P.E.W in the fourth one.
Society for the Preservation of Elvish Welfare.
They go to the kitchens because Fred and George say go to the kitchens, meet the house elves, and see they're really happy. So they go to the kitchens and see Dobby there, who is dressed in a crazy outfit of madness, and he mentions that he needs a jumper to complete the look. So Ron says, I always get a jumper every Christmas, you can have mine. So on Christmas Day, Dobby turns up to give Harry a present of socks that he has knitted himself, because Dobby is learning to knit.
With this snitch on one of them and
broomsticks on the other, I think.
Something like that.
And so Ron gives Dobby his jumper, and Harry gives Dobby a pair of Uncle Vernon's lovely socks. And Dobby gets very excited and says, oh, but sir, they's made a mistake in the shop, Harry Potter. They has given you two the same. So then Ron gives Dobby some more socks, and he says, oh, now you can mix them up properly, and here's your jumper. So later on, when Dobby says, Wheezy, who's giving Dobby his jumper, sir? That's what that bit comes from. However, later on in the fifth one, when Hermione is still adamant that the house elves need to be freed, she's a bit sneaky and it is a bit naughty, and starts learning to knit hats and leaves them hidden in the Gryffindor common room. So when the house elves are cleaning up, they'll find the hat and then they'll be given clothes and they will have to be free. And Ron tells her off for this because it is a little bit naughty.
Cheeky.
Because she's sneakily freeing them and they don't want to actually be freed. So because of that, none of the house elves will clean Gryffindor Tower. So it's left to poor old Dobby to clean the entirety of Gryffindor Tower.
So he ends up with a load of hats.
Which he wears piled on top of his head. Hence why
Like
we're wearing
us!
these.
We don't have as many as Dobby.
Because Dobby's already freed, so he can keep the clothes, and he walks around Gryffindor Tower with, I think eventually it's like 9 or 10 hats.
Like a boss.
And these hats come in useful to protect Dobby's head.
The door of the Room of Requirement opened and closed. Harry looked round to see who had entered, but there did not seem to be anybody there. It was a few moments before he realised that people close to the door had fallen silent. Next thing he knew, something was tugging at his robes, somewhere near the knee. He looked down and saw, to his very great astonishment, Dobby the house elf peering up at him from beneath his usual 8 woolly hats. Hi, Dobby. he said. What's wrong? The elf's eyes were wide with terror and he was shaking. The members of the DA closest to Harry had fallen silent. Everybody in the room was watching Dobby. The few Patronuses people had managed to conjure faded away into silver mist, leaving the room looking much darker than before. Harry Potter, sir, squeaked the elf, trembling from head to foot. Harry Potter, sir, Dobby has come to warn you. But the house elves have been warned not to tell. He ran headfirst into the wall. Harry, who had some experience of Dobby's habits of self-punishment, made to seize him, but Dobby merely bounced off the stone, cushioned by his 8 hats. Hermione and a few of the other girls let out squeaks of fear and sympathy.
So there we go, the hats do come in useful and handy. So there you go, there's a bit more of an insight into what was missing from the films, that Dobby is in 2 more. I really wish Dobby had been in it more. He's one of my favourite characters. And
He's amazing.
Everybody loves Dobby.
And it's something that we learn from in the stories is through Dobby's sort of... It's an amazing thing that J.K. Rowling's written into the stories, is this whole idea of slavery and of freedom and of compassion.
Yeah, definitely. And poor old Winky, you know, I mean, it's a sad story, but not in any of it. So I would have loved to see another house elf. I mean, I know we have Creature, but she had a tomato-shaped nose, and I was really excited to see that.
Big brown eyes.
So sad.
And little batty ears.
So that's all we've got time for today.
We'll catch you next time. Until then,
Bye!